You do then is you hit share, copy the link. Starts to, you see numbers pop up there, and there won't be a ton because not everybody watches these.
Sure.
Check, check, check. Hello, this is Ron. As soon as you see a couple numbers pop up there, let me know. On persons and thumbs. Probably persons. Check, check. Check, check, check. Hello. Check, check,
Hello.
check,
Oh,
check,
there's
check,
one.
Check. All right, we are live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna do this right. If you're watching, excuse the informality, as always. You're wondering, what is Eric doing on Saturday? Okay. So if you're watching right now, I'd like to introduce you to Travis Spots. Travis Spots is a comedian, and he's at my home.
Hello.
Hello. It's good to see you. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thanks for having me over.
Okay, so I just recently, you know what? Let's start with this. Let's go over how we became acquainted. Travis.
Yeah.
How did it start again? It was the roast, was it not?
It was the roast of Seth.
Okay.
So to back up a little bit, like the whole way this roast came about was very hastily put together.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah, like I was doing a guest set. I was in town at Grins back in September, and after the show, Seth was saying, "Hey, I'm going to be leaving at some point in time. I'd like to throw him a roast."
Right.
And then Garrett and I were talking to him, and he's, "Yeah, Garrett, you can be the roast master. Travis, I'd like you on the dais." And that was the last we heard of it. Fast forward to Thanksgiving this past year, and then I get a text like at 8 o'clock at night, and he's like, "The roast is on December 12th.
Yeah.
You're on the dais." And
So
I
you got
was
like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 weeks to, and I was like, all right, that's cool. How much
Right.
time am I doing? He's like 10 minutes, which is an ungodly short amount of time to write 10 minutes worth of brand new stuff.
Right.
And then I'm like, who's on the dais? And then he was like, Deggy, Ortega, Garrett's Roastmaster, Eric Zane, and then he said maybe Nardos Osterhart, who was on Dave Dyer's roast.
I love her. I love Ethiopians.
And then,
Hold on, side note. Some of the most beautiful people in the world are Ethiopians.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. If you were to look up beautiful Ethiopians, oh my God, what a blessed bunch of people. Holy cow, I love her. I love her.
She is a real treasure.
Oh yeah.
And she's funny too.
Oh yeah. I just love her. She's fantastic.
So Seth was like, maybe Nardos, and then I was like, okay. He's like, I'm waiting to hear back from her. So I have done graphic design for a long time.
Right.
And so I was like, well, let me know when the final lineup is, and I'll do a flyer for it.
Okay.
So then it is a week before the show.
All right.
And I have not gotten a finalized lineup. And then I find out that Ben was taking over for you.
Yes, I had an obligation. I couldn't be there. And you know what? I was like, thank God too, because the way it came about is the same. The way I had it on my end was the same way you're describing it. I was like, this thing's a clusterfuck. There's no way this is gonna get off the ground. I'm out. No, that isn't true. I did have something going on, but I was like, thank God I've got something going on, because I was like, this is gonna be a disaster.
Yeah, it was. Everyone on the dais was kind of pissed off because they were like, we just don't have time. Like Deggy's like.
So Seth throws his own roast.
Yeah.
And then he fucks it up by not even actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of Seth though, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, and then he was probably looking for somebody to sue after it got all screwed up. So he can't do anything without either getting smashed by someone in a car or suing someone or farting. Those are the three things he's good at: suing, getting hit, and farting.
So when I found out that Ben was filling in for you, I didn't know Ben. I knew everybody else.
Okay.
And so part of doing a roast is doing your homework.
Right.
You have to dig up dirt on people.
Yeah.
When I first heard about you doing it, I texted a mutual friend, Stu McAllister.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, hey, give me some dirt on Zane.
There's so much dirt. And he went. Okay.
So I was familiar with your show, and I knew of you and Ben, because Ben was the producer at the time.
Right,
I was listening to Sports Stu.
Okay.
And then when I had to get dirt on Ben, I was like, I'm just going to listen. And I probably listened back towards when you guys were talking about the Dave Dyer roast.
Okay.
So
you have plenty of time.
Did my homework.
So you're listening for the nuances about Ben to write material about it.
Yes.
What things that have been his downfall maybe. I don't know anything about writing, but I can just imagine if you pay attention long enough, you can get something that everybody's going to be able to relate to.
Yeah. So the first episode that I chimed in to listen was the episode you played his first stand-up set.
Okay.
And I was like, great launching point.
Okay. Yeah, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Because I hammered him on his open mic set a little bit.
Okay.
The first thing I opened with, I was just like, Ben Glaze, you stupid motherfucker.
Holy cow, that's great.
I pulled no punches. Like, for some reason, in my mind, when I was writing for Ben, I was like, I have to fucking destroy him.
Oh, yeah. That's it's kind of like, he's very punchable. It's like after you get going, it's like, oh, God, this is perfect. And then the thing about Ben, though, is when you're picking on him, he reacts in a way. It's like you realize, boy, he's really good at acting that he's upset. And then you're like, wait a minute, he's not acting. Yeah. He's actually upset.
But he was a real good sport at the roast. Good. He was a very, very good sport about everything. And you talked about it on the air because then I ended up tweeting at you. And this is how we became acquainted. Because I tweeted at you to try and just pour gasoline on the fire a little bit.
And it worked because we started talking about you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this guy Spots, I don't know what the hell his deal is, whatever. Just trying to start a fight.
This is very pro wrestling at its finest here. It was just like, someone be a good guy, someone be a bad guy. And I was kind of just like, fanning the flame a little bit.
Well, that's perfect because you see how it is for me on my end on the radio when I have this list of comedians who are all very good, but knowing what I know, I want to insult them when they can't respond on the air and build up this type of, what you said, this type of a work, if you will, to drum up attention for the roast. And it's fun. I like insulting people. It's great. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do.
I feel like you would have done well at the roast had you been there.
And I think if I... maybe sometimes I get in my own head and think, oh, there's no way I can pull that out. There's no way I can do that. But who knows? But it's funny because when I saw those guys at the Dyer roast, I had a very good feeling about comedy in the town because they were all so very funny. Yeah. I really enjoyed it, and I'd never heard Alan True perform before, and even if it wasn't a roast, I didn't see a stand-up set, but I saw Josh Ortega, and that guy is ruthless. And there was a number, and Nardos, of course, Deggy, Loria, all these people were excellent. So I really enjoyed that, and I was glad that you got to do the roast. So at the end of it, did you feel like it was a great time? Everybody seemed to enjoy it?
It packed out more than I think any of us were expecting it to.
Okay.
I think when maybe 3 or 4 days prior to, I was texting if I've got people coming, you should have them get tickets now. And I asked, I was like, well, what's it looking like? And it's I think at that time it was 50 or 60, and I'd say we had about half the club filled out.
Okay.
So it wasn't not for nothing. The club can seat 250.
Nice.
And so...
Yeah, I want that to happen, more often, quarterly or maybe twice a year.
Well, the thing with roasts was that it was kind of like this rite of passage for comics that were well liked, respected in the scene that you're in, and they usually were moving to either LA or New York. Gotcha. And Seth, to his credit, is because I tour and I go around, doing different clubs around the country and stuff like that. And Seth is probably one of the nicest club managers you could ever have worked with. He treats you like royalty.
What's interesting about that guy too is because if you had ever been to that club, he's waiting on tables. He's bringing food out. He's bringing drinks out, and you're right, really, really nice dude. What does he do now? I mean, he left town?
Actually, so I was just at Grins last night I just dropped in to do a 7-minute spot.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
And we were working out a new bit and so I'm like squeezing it in between a couple of old things that I've got going.
Okay.
So just that way, in case it dies, I have stuff to fall back on.
Right, right.
Apparently Seth is still in town. He hasn't like left just yet, but he's not working at the club now. They got a new guy that's taken over for him.
Okay. How did it go when you with that new material? I mean, that's not to just throw it out there like that is tricky business.
Yeah.
And I like that you had that safety valve of 2 bits that you know are great.
Yeah.
An opener and a closer. How do you think it went with the middle one? I'm always very interested in the mechanics of how comics do what they do.
So for me, I'm pretty comfortable with my writing. Like I'm in Chicago now. I used to live in Grand Rapids, so like it's kind of nice coming back home. And I'm staying with my brother this weekend.
Right.
And but the open mics in Chicago are not my favorite because you get a lot of like cynical comics that are there just for themselves. They leave as soon as their set is over with, and they give 0. So it's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? Like, I can't tell if I bombed, if I have something there. Like, I got 0. So I was never a fan of like going to the open mics out there. There's a couple that are worth their weight in salt, but not a lot.
Worth their weight in salt? Who says that?
I don't know.
It's supposed to be worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, I say salt.
Because if you say worth their weight in salt, that's not much. Salt doesn't like cost that much.
Have you met comedians?
Oh, Jesus. All right. So did it go? I mean, how
yeah,
did it go?
The bit went well. I tested it out last week Thursday at a mic, and I had forgotten a punchline to it, but I have a couple punchlines.
You're like, oh, God dang it!
Yeah.
I really. Whenever there's a story that I want to talk about, and I come up with something like right away, as soon as I see the story, and I know that it's gonna be funny, and then I wait and I talk about it here, and then all of a sudden I get done, I go, why wasn't that any good?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, I forgot the best part.
Yep.
What an asshole! I gotta write this stuff down.
Yeah. So I missed, and it wasn't like a detrimental part that I missed. Like it wasn't like the core part of the joke. It was just like an extra tag to the main punchline. So that it went well at the mic that I did last week. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna remember to do this part this time. And then it went fine. It needs more fine tuning. But for like the purposes of doing like a 7-minute spot, it was fine.
So if you fuck up a joke, are you the guy that goes, oh God,
no,
you just fucked that up? You don't ever do that, huh?
No.
Some do.
Yeah, no, those are the bad comics.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. So if they say, oh man, I just messed up that joke, that's no good?
Well, if you react to that, then, like, if you react in the way it's like you're telling a joke and you're like, I fucked that up. Like, if, like, the crowd then feels weird for you. And you, like, lose all of the air in the room.
To me, yes, I agree. You know more about this than I do, but when I'm watching someone go, oh, God, I just fucked it up, that, to me, I laugh at that,
It depends on the meltdown. Like, if they have, like, a fun meltdown for her, then maybe, but, like, it's a lot of, like, awkward feels that the crowd has.
Right.
Like, even as comics, you'll watch somebody that, like, does this stuff and they, like, freak out, and you're just like, why did you do that?
Yeah. Now, Travis, you're originally from West Michigan.
Yes.
You grew up where again?
So, kind of all over the place. I was born in Grand Rapids, and I was here till I was like 5. Then my parents moved to the Newaygo County area, so like Newaygo, Fremont,
Were they like farmers?
No, I honestly, my parents built a house.
Okay.
So I think they wanted to just have their own spot.
Okay. All right.
And then was there for a while. My parents divorced when I was like 12.
Ain't that a bitch?
It sucks, but
God dang it.
It sucks, but it is what it. I mean, they've been divorced for 17 years.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just thinking back to when I was 8. So we're not that different, and it's like, son of a bitch, man. I will, it was just an awful time. My brother took it worse. He was your age.
Okay.
And man, to this day, he still struggles with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, God dang it. Occasionally, he'll start like rambling on about stuff. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I think that people call it daddy issues. Isn't that a term you hear?
Yeah. And I'm the oldest of all my siblings, so like I saw the effects of it happening, like what you described, like to one of my younger brothers.
Yeah.
Like he's 20 now, and like he's just now catching his stride.
Okay.
And it's good for him, but he struggled a lot because he just like had a lot of pent up anger and didn't know how to deal with it and that type of stuff. So then after like towards my senior year of high school, my mom moved north to like the Ludington area.
Okay.
And so then I was in the Ludington area for a little bit, and then I got into graphic design work, and then when I graduated high school, graphic design wasn't the first thing I went into. I went into pro wrestling.
Oh, come on.
For real.
What was your what did you want to do in pro wrestling? Did you want to organize it? Did you want to wrestle?
No, I did, like, so my friends and I in high school, we backyard wrestled, and we weren't so into it. We pooled our money together, bought a used ring in Louisiana, drove down, picked it up, brought it back to Michigan, and we used to throw on shows in the high school gym.
My God, if you weren't already interesting enough, we got a guy who was living the dream in pro wrestling. That's terrific.
Yeah, so the day after high school graduation, I packed up my car, and I went down to Coldwater.
Okay.
Where Dan Severn, do you know who Dan Severn is?
I've heard of that name. Wasn't he an MMA guy? Okay.
And so I went to stay with my uncle who lived like a half an hour away from there, and I spent a summer training for pro wrestling.
Oh my God! So you learned how to take a fall and
yeah, I mean, I kind of already knew it. My friends,
right, yeah,
we did it, and we didn't like do it to just beat the hell out of each other with chairs and shit like that. Like we like studied, like we watched.
Yeah, I mean, this was serious. You weren't screwing around.
Yeah,
you really wanted this to happen.
Yeah. So there's if you search hard enough under my name, you will find a match with me in tights doing backflips and shit. Like,
oh my God, no. I oftentimes see in backyard wrestling people sustain very, very bad injuries. Did you ever get badly injured at it?
The only time that I actually got pretty lucky. I've only had 2 injuries. I broke my wrist one time off of a botched top rope leg drop. I like planted my wrist too hard, and I just felt my wrist like in the corner right here pop.
Something went wrong.
Yeah, so I had to go to the ER and get that fixed, and then no surgery. Just
what's that like when you say to the doctor, "Yeah, I was doing backyard wrestling"? Does he look at you? I mean, do you feel like him thinking, "Well, what an asshole, this stupid idiot"?
They're kind of like, "Oh, cool, all right." The second injury, which is probably the one that was the worst of them all, and this guy that did this was in my wedding party. So like, obviously I don't hate him for doing this, but we were in a match and I was hitting him with some stiff shots, like hitting him a little harder.
Like a closed fist?
No, it wasn't closed fist. I was just like it's called a safe zone when you like hit, like you can hit like right here on the neck.
Yeah. And
you're not really taking any damage. It just looks cool.
Okay.
But I was getting him a little more closer to his jaw, and so it's a stiff shot is what it's called. So we were outside of the ring. I wasn't a part of this, but we had Stolen Road street signs. And it's just like this giant rectangle one-way street sign.
Okay.
He hits me, rolls me back into the ring, grabs the sign. I'm like getting up, and he's behind me. He takes the sign, holds it flatways, and throws it. And in the middle of the flight of this sign, it turns 90 degrees and spikes me in the back of the head. And immediately I was like, oh, this is not good.
This is bad.
I felt my head, and then I pulled out my hand, and it was just red.
It's like Game of Thrones, Ned Stark.
Yeah, really.
Holy crap.
I was like, we got to end this now. And so we ended it, and then I was like, I got to drive to the hospital. And like, you're not driving shit. Like,
oh, yeah. You're bleeding all over the place. Yes. You needed a ride there.
Yeah, so we go to the nearest hospital, which was in Fremont, which is where my dad lived. And so I call my dad, and I was like, hey, Dad. And this is like at 10:30 at night. And he's like, what? And I was like,
he's been waiting for this call. He knows you're,
Yeah, and he was like, what? And I was like, so, Chris. And he's like, what'd he do?
Oh God, he's been through the ringer, this dad of yours.
Yeah, no, he's a real trooper to have dealt with all of this.
Yeah, man, holy crap.
So the wrestling thing was before graphic design even.
That's fantastic, though. What a story. I mean, the fact that you can tell that just like at the drop of a hat, the whole backyard. Whatever happened to the ring? What'd you do with the ring?
One of my friends still has it. I don't know where it is, but one of my friends still has it.
At some point, Travis, you have to get to the moment where you go, all right, this is not working and I must stop. Take me through that moment, please.
So it was about 8 years ago this time, like in January 8 years ago.
Yeah.
In Manistee, and we killed it on blackjack. Like, we went in with like $20 and we walked away with like $400.
Okay.
So we were like, we did pretty good tonight. Yeah. So we're like, all right, let's go down to the mall in Muskegon and we're going to, just see, what catches our eye. And we're on our way back, and there was a snowstorm, kind of like what we had overnight, where it was kind of like slippery and whatnot. And my buddy was driving his truck, and I was in the passenger seat. We were on 31 North, and all of a sudden his truck starts fishtailing on the freeway. We ended up rolling 2.5 times.
Oh my God.
And thankfully, nothing, no broken bones,
right?
no nothing. Like the only thing that really was, I guess, hurt was my spine twisted a little bit, and I had to go to a chiropractor for like a month and a half.
Okay.
But that was like enough of a realization for me to be like, because I do the wrestling, I'm like, I could just fuck myself up, and then that's that for me.
Right.
Like I love performing, but like I didn't want to risk it.
And you're too smart to be being, no offense to anybody who does wrestling on the side, but
it's fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, I can't finish this thought without it sounding insulting. But you're too smart to do something as fucked up as that.
Well, at the time I wasn't. But
the fact of the matter is, you then went on to school and you learned graphic design, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I did the graphic design, and I worked for this company in Manistee called Dr. Shrink Incorporated. A little plug for them. And it's not what you think it is. It's like
Shrink Wrap?
Yeah.
I knew it. As soon as you said it, I'd never heard it, but it makes sense to me, especially in Michigan. You can do that with boats.
Yep.
That's probably what it was, huh?
Boats, buildings, machinery, all sorts of shit.
Yeah, transportation, move it from place to place.
You wouldn't know it, but they're like the world's biggest distributor of material.
Isn't that great whenever you live in a town and you find out that they're like the biggest at whatever?
Yeah.
I think there's I met a guy not long ago who owns like the biggest kayak company in the world. It's in Muskegon.
No kidding.
And this dude, he's the guy, and he makes like 50 million kayaks every week, and that's it. If you want a kayak, you go to Muskegon, Michigan, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
But anyway.
So then...
That's a great story, but I'm glad I brought that up.
So, I did the graphic design for them for a number of years, like 4 years, something like that, and then moved back to Grand Rapids. And by this point in time, I had started doing stand-up. I figured that if I couldn't wrestle, I needed something sort of performing related.
Okay, yeah.
And
I can totally see that.
And so I was like, I've always loved stand-up. I've always liked watching the Comedy Central specials that they put out. So I was like, I'm going to give stand-up a try because, like, I can't get hurt like I could in wrestling. The only thing that can get hurt is my pride. And so I'm like, I can handle that. I've got thick skin. So I signed up to do my very first performance was at Laugh Fest, which was, now looking back at it, the dumbest idea.
Really? Just because you're on this, it's a big comedy platform?
No, I didn't know anything about like open mics or anything like that. I just was like, I remember driving back from Grand Rapids to Manistee before I moved, and at this time, like, also, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm gay. Like,
oh yeah, and you talk about that in your act.
I do, yes. Okay. So I was at the time dating my now husband, and we did the whole Grand Rapids to Manistee thing. So I was driving to Grand Rapids every weekend to see him. Yeah. And so I remember coming back to Manistee one time, and I saw a billboard for Laugh Fest, and I was like, well, what is this? And so I looked it up on the internet, and I found that they had. At the time, it was the Amateur Stand-Up Showcase, and the way they pitched it on the site was, hey, if you've never done stand-up before, or if you've been doing it for 20 years, sign up. And so I was like, okay. So I signed up for it, and they give you 5 minutes. And I was at not on the floor, not at Grins, but the banquet hall across the hallway from Grins on the third floor.
Yes.
So
yes, I know exactly
they set up stages on that side during Laugh Fest also.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you get 5 minutes. And I was like, that is an eternity.
Yeah, sure is. Absolutely. Considering a lot of open mics are 3 maximum,
Yeah. Well, in Michigan, you get 5.
Oh, do you? Okay.
But in Chicago, it's like 3 to 4.
Okay.
But, so yeah, I did it, and I didn't suck. Like, I've got the video, but it's like... at the time, I didn't think I did bad at all, and I got that laughing bug in me, and so then I just kept going to the open mics in Grand Rapids. There's Sunday night open mic, Sunday night funnies, so I would go to that like every month. I drop in and do that, and then finally I just started getting good.
You just worked it out.
I worked it out.
It's all a matter of trying. Yeah. It's all a matter of actually doing.
Yeah, and that's why I've been so encouraging to Ben.
Yeah,
because
that's great. That's very good for Ben.
Yeah, when I found out that your show, you both got fired, I was in New York City on a mini vacation, and I saw your posts on Twitter, and I was like, holy shit! So I like watched the interview you did on Wood TV8 about it.
Okay.
And so I reached out to you. I reached out to Ben.
Right.
And I've kept in touch with Ben because I've been encouraging him to keep doing the
stand-up. That's good. He loves it. I know he really enjoys it.
Yeah, he said he was going to keep doing it, and then I convinced him to do Funniest Person in Grand Rapids because they had a couple of openings at like the end of February.
Okay.
And so he's like, I don't think I'm ready for it. And I was like, well, I wasn't ready for it when I first did it myself either.
Yeah, you can't be ready for it.
Yeah.
No, you've got the best attitude for this business, and that is try.
Yeah.
Don't be comfortable. I mean, as soon as you get comfortable with anything, things sometimes can get weird. At least for me, I know I tend to. I actually am. I get things done when I'm uncomfortable, and I think that that's just for me. But for a lot of people, I think that they say, if you start to get too comfortable, it's probably a time. It might be time for a change.
Yeah.
Do something different. And I mean, and you've shown that. Holy crap!
Well, like with the roast, like only having like 2 weeks to write.
Right.
Like I was just a writing machine. Like I hammered everybody. And
boy,
great fashion.
I bet that's a good feeling when you realize, okay, now I got to get after it. I got to come up with something. I'm going to put my pen to paper and put my brain into this. And then you got nothing. And then after like maybe a day and a half in and out, thinking about it, wrapping your mind around it, you realize you've got a third of it done. I bet you that's a good feeling. You go, okay, now I'm hitting my stride, starting to feel good.
I remember I told my husband, I was like, it was the Saturday before the roast. I was like, I'm taking this entire day. And I'm locking myself in our bedroom, and don't bother me. Like, I'm going to be writing the entire day. And I was on YouTube. I was looking up old roasts that they've done at Grins to just, kind of see what other people have done on other guys so I don't repeat stuff. And so I was really doing my homework there. And to Ben's credit, too, like, he actually did his homework for a little bit. He pulled out, when he got to the part where he's roasting me, he brought up an old setup to a joke that I have since changed. I still do the premise of it, essentially, but, like, I've changed the setup.
Okay.
And Ben pulled out a setup that I haven't done in 3 or 4 years now. And so I was like, all right, so he's definitely done his homework.
So he's in his attack of you.
Yes.
He would say, Travis Spot, he once said, and then he might say that, and then he just would do his own thing.
Yeah, he was pretty proud of the jokes he wrote, and I actually thought he did a good job.
Good. Yeah, well, from the feedback that I've heard, and then I obviously heard that one because we played it on the radio, that was good. And then I know that comedian, Brad Williams, who was at Back Alley, who invited Ben to do that guest spot, he reacted with Don Veltman at Back Alley and reacted to it and said that was not a bomb in any way. And that was, he was pretty impressed with that. So you get a guy like that who's been doing it for as long as he has. To me, that's saying something.
Well, yeah, it was like Ben. I was like, it's pretty impressive what he's done so far. He's done 2 or 3 open mics,
and
he's done a guest set and a roast. And like, I don't think from the audio that I heard of his first open mic to the roast that I was on with him, and like he did pretty close to 10 minutes. Like,
oh, that's great.
I mean, a couple guys went a little shorter, and I went a little long because I had a really nice thing to say about Seth that was 2 minutes long. But,
okay.
But everyone, like, the show stayed at an hour and a half. Like, we were done at like I think an hour 33.
Wow.
But Ben, filled his time. I was very impressed.
I'll say this too: that radio station should not have fired him. I don't know why they did that.
No.
Because, and here's why. Ben is serviceable in many, and actually I should say more than serviceable. Serviceable would imply that he's good enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Ben has a lot of expertise, and I was surprised that they couldn't utilize that. I was taken back. I was like, well, why are you firing him? I mean, he's it's not like he's making $100,000 a year, for God's sake. And without him, you're losing a key behind-the-scenes player who would do anything for you. And so I was confused at why they fired him. I totally understand why they'd fire me. I don't need a talent if they got a whole new radio format going on. Plus, I kind of, as usual.
Country radio.
Yeah, well, yeah, and as usual, they, I think things got off the rails with me too. I think a lot of people are like, oh, right, he is a fuckhead. Holy crap, we knew when we hired him this would happen eventually.
Yeah, I enjoyed the program for the times that I listened.
I'm proud of the shows. I always loved doing the shows, and I know deep down, I had fun. I enjoyed, and that to me is it.
Yeah.
If I finish a broadcast and I'm like, I had a blast, and then I know that it will translate. And it's always been that way for me. It's like, if I'm not enjoying it and I feel myself getting fatigued, that means it sucks.
Yeah.
And it's all about whether or not the conversation is flowing. Like my time with you, we've burned through 30 minutes.
Oh, wow,
and I
really?
feel, you know, that's how it is. If the talk is compelling and flowing, you won't notice it. You won't notice the time passing. And that was very typical of my time with Ben. We would do, you know, a week's worth of shows. And I was like, Jesus, Ben, that was the fastest show. It was the fastest week because we hammered it. And there wasn't a show that I remember where, now occasionally we'd have a segment where I was like, that sucked. I didn't like that. But most of the time, out of 9 segments, I felt good about 9 segments.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. But you see, for whatever reason, it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. It was kind of we were kind of like rolling a big rock uphill. And I don't know why. It maybe had something to do with it is a sports talk station, and we were kind of like misplaced on it. And you know, you had to, if you are attracting audience A during morning drive, and then, you know, the rest of the day is totally different content. It's a little tricky.
Sure.
And I don't think, not to think that, and I have no idea how we did in our last ratings book. It might have been the worst thing ever, but I'm still convinced that we could have made something happen there. But
oh, with your guys' predictions for
2019? Yeah. You know, there was a time, a couple of our ratings books, we were top 3 in men, 25-54, which is a key demo. And that was exciting because I was like, oh, great, this is building. And then it would go right in the shitter for the next 3 months, and then it would come back up, kind of. It was a weird scenario.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
Sure.
It's a lot of pressure because, you know, bottom line is, if we had performed and if it was sold, and so we had a ratings generator and a revenue generator, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
At all. But I don't know if that's if it's a bad thing where we are now, because I really enjoyed this. Sure, I'm not making what I was, but there's great potential to make that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you already got...
Oh, my God.
Which, I told you off the mic, but, like, congrats on getting Back Alley as
Yeah,
a sponsor.
yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And you know all that, and I was talking about this earlier, that happened so strangely because Back Alley wanted in on the old show.
Yeah. Which
And
I think speaks more to BBL than...
Yeah, the fuckers wouldn't call him back. I mean, he said, hey, Eric, I want on your show. He actually told Ben, and Ben goes, this guy wants to sponsor us. I go, okay, great. Let's go tell the sales manager. We go tell this guy, nice guy, but the fucker, he didn't do shit. So he, I don't know that he's not even reaching out to this guy.
Yeah.
But then when Don gets a hold of me after I got shit canned, he's like, hey, man, can we get on? Yeah, sure, we can work something out. Let's talk about it. He goes, I called 3 times to the radio station trying to get somebody to just call me back so I could give them money to sponsor the Eric Zane morning show.
Who doesn't want money?
What the fuck? And these guys are dying for money. They're dying for money. You could have, holy crap. And he couldn't even get a phone call back. So within 3 hours, I had sent him a contract. First, I wrote out 3 different tiers. Okay, for $400 you get this. For $600 you get this. $800 you get that. What do you want? And I need a 3-month commitment. He goes, I'll take the top one. 3 months. I go, that's it? He goes, yeah. I go, all right, I'll write it up. Send him a contract. He replies. 2 hours later, we're in business. From my house.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's not that hard.
So I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thanks for not doing anything. Because now I'm like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah. And they weren't technically a sponsor at BBL because don't you have like a non?
Yeah, I do. I have a non-solicit. So
Yeah.
since they weren't a client, I could go get them. But yeah, there's all sorts of things that I can't do. Like I can't be on the radio for 6 months, but I don't care. I'm going to be
very
back. I'll be
Conan
back.
O'Brien when he got booted off the Tonight Show.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Were you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I remember that. It was extended time he was away.
Yeah, it was like 6 to 9 months or something like that. He wasn't allowed to be on TV.
Right.
And so he ended up just orchestrating like a 30-city tour or something like that and basically did his show in theaters. And
stay in front of
then
them.
they recorded like a Netflix thing out of it
That's
too.
key, man. Stay in front of people. That's why 48 hours after getting fired, we published the first pod because it doesn't matter how you get on, just as long as you get on. I don't care if it's Facebook. I don't care if it's with me with this throwing a mic into a computer. You gotta let them know. You gotta keep doing. You gotta keep feeding the machine. That's how you do it. And Okay, now more about you, Travis. Where were we? We talked about getting into comedy, right?
Yes.
And then you did the Laugh Fest thing.
Yep. So Laugh Fest is kind of near and dear to my heart, not just because of like I started at Laugh Fest.
Right.
So Laugh Fest benefits Gilda's Club in Grand Rapids, and
do you have cancer?
no, my grandfather did. My
God,
grandfather.
it's terrible.
No, my grandfather and my grandmother each had cancer. My grandmother had breast cancer,
Yeah.
and my grandfather unfortunately passed away from cancer about 4 years ago. And they were both members to Gilda's Club. So this festival has a near and dear spot to my heart
it's
because
a big chunk of change for that.
So I like that they support Gilda's Club.
Yeah.
And it's a good opportunity for, just the community itself to like just, laugh it off. Like I am the biggest proponent of going to Dr. Grin's or any sort of comedy club because like it's just the best time. Like you get to just let it go. You get to laugh it off, and like I've been going to Grins now for 6-7 years, and it's like I was there last night, and it's just like going back home. It's my favorite place.
You ever make cancer jokes?
I haven't. No, I haven't done that yet. I don't have the balls to do something that abrasive, which is weird because like I have a whole thing where I like come out of the closet to the crowd, and then I like do that for a little bit.
What's the meanest thing you do?
The meanest thing that I do?
Do you do anything mean, or are you more self-deprecating? I mean, what's your style?
My style is pretty autobiographical. Like, I talk a lot about, like, me and, like, observations. Like, I talk about being gay, but it's not, like, my entire act. I'd say maybe it's 20% of my act. Like, I was given a really good piece of advice from Adam Zeggy 6 years ago. He's like, Ellen DeGeneres is gay, and she's a comedian, but you don't hear her talking about being gay the entire time. She talks about being gay maybe 10-15% of her act, and then she talks about stuff that she sees, other stuff.
Right.
And that was very insightful to me. I was like, all right, so I don't need to make it all about that. Like when you first start, like Ben's going through this phase right now where he's like writing real dark stuff, and that's fine. Everyone does it. He'll figure out his own little way of presenting dark stuff where it's not so like just a punch in the face. And that's how every open micer started out. So then I kind of like adjusted it a bit, and now it's a lot of stories about like me and like the experiences I've had, having a kid. That's the new thing that I've been doing. I have a almost 8-year-old son.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't gay always apparently.
Tell me, okay, is that a dynamic of there was a girl in the past, she had to, and you guys?
Yeah, so it was she and I were high school friends, and one summer we ended up hooking up and dating for like the whole summer.
Okay,
it didn't work out, but wine and biology happened. Yeah, and then I have a 8-year-old clone of myself now.
Okay, well that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
he's a good kid.
You get to see him quite a bit, or?
Yeah, so we he lives in Minnesota with his mom. So it's like 5 hours from Chicago, and I see him. He comes to see us in Chicago once a month, and then we talk on the phone.
Nice.
Almost daily.
Does he know about your sexuality?
Yeah.
How does that? Because that's for a young person, that's a little bit. That's something that they'd have to wrap their minds around that most people typically wouldn't. How does that work for you? I'm
proud of how he's handled it because it's not like we're like shoving it down his throat. He's just. I remember when he had the realization because his mom is married also, and he just had this really like proud moment where he said, "I have 3 dads," and he was like cool with it because he's like, "I have that many more people to." Show me affection and all that stuff. So he's been very cool about it, and
man, we're in a little bit of we're getting to a sweeter spot, I think, for human nature when it comes to responding to people who reveal things about themselves, like you. When I was in high school, that didn't happen.
Sure,
people would not do that. So much so that I never, for once, thought that there were gay people amongst my group, amongst the school, that I didn't exist. And if they did, they'd get the shit beat out of them. Holy crap, what an awful way. And the fact that was like the mid-'80s, and here we are 30 years later, that's quite an adjustment for humanity to make. It's still, there are times when you could be ostracized or discriminated against or treated poorly or worse, but to think where the the world has come regarding that is pretty big.
Yeah, I think we've made quite a bit of strides. There's still ground to be
gained,
yeah. But I mean, I think, even back 5 years ago, when like the whole gay marriage thing was like very prominent in the news and stuff like that, like now that's like really like died down and nobody really cares about that anymore.
And to be honest with you, when it comes to me, it's a lot of times it has to do with faith is the word I'm looking for. Like when it comes to my denomination, Roman Catholic, that is looked at, who a person lays with, as sinful behavior. That's what we are told.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't look at that and say, all right, I am going to alienate, ostracize, and do whatever it is to the person who chooses to do that because of what you told me. I am more of the mindset of, I'm not going to judge anybody. If a person chooses to do whatever they want to do, that is between them and their own private life. Right. And in some cases, God. I mean, I don't know at all your religious background, and nor would I ever judge you for your lifestyle, but there are a lot of people who do.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings me to my next thing. Have you ever been on stage and you started to mention anything about your sexuality and somebody got up and left? Has that ever happened to you?
I've only walked one table, so the term is walking a table.
Right.
And it actually wasn't during anything about me being gay. I have a bit about my views on religion, because like my mom is a very religious person. And
yeah.
There was a lot of strife between her and I for quite a while.
Because of your sexuality?
Yes.
Okay, so she said to me, oh, you're going to hell, or she would say to you, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, no, so we didn't talk for a couple of years because of it. Things are a lot better now, but there was a good 2-3 year period where it was real rough and rocky ship. So we
figured it out.
We figured it out, but I have a bit in my act where I talk about religion, and it's kind of like the absurdity. Like you've heard the phrase "God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve."
Yep, I've heard that.
So I pick on that, and I basically I think that's like a bullshit premise, because like what if have fun with it? What if it was Adam and Steve? I mean, Steve probably doesn't like apples. He probably likes bananas. And like I walked a table off of that.
Oh, off of that joke?
Yeah.
Ah, come on.
I walked a table off of that line.
Ah, Jesus. I mean, because if that's the case, now you said earlier you don't acknowledge when you fuck up. Did you acknowledge when these people left? Did you say anything?
Oh no, because I didn't even see them leave.
Oh, okay.
The manager afterwards was like, "Yeah, you walked this one table of 3 women," and I was like, "Oh, what part?" And she's like, "Some of your religious thing," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm only the feature. Like the headliner haven't even came up yet." Oh. And she was like, "Oh, I thought it was fantastic."
Okay, good.
She was like, "I'm so happy that happened," because they were so uppity.
I just let people be. That's their own choice to make. And if there is any judgment to be made, who am I to do that? That is not my job.
Sure.
I worry about raising my kids, putting food on the table, wiping my ass. These are the things Eric should worry about, the things Eric controls. I don't care who lays with who. That is not Eric's business in any way. So, it's just interesting.
I didn't walk somebody for being gay. I have had to deal with a couple of hecklers during that stuff.
Wow.
One time I was at the Sunday Night Funnies.
Okay.
And I have a bit, and it's probably one of my more dirtier bits.
Okay.
I say that my husband and we sometimes have awkward encounters with waitresses from time to time. We were at a bar one time, and the waitress comes up to me, and she's like, "Oh, are you here with your brother?"
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know where she came to that conclusion. I've got brown hair and brown eyes. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. Yeah. So I say to her, "No, we're not brothers, but we fuck each other."
Oh!
And it gets a good laugh.
Oh my God!
In that kind of way. And so
that's perfect.
The laughs die down, and then there's like a guy maybe 20 feet away sitting at the bar.
Yeah.
And he yells out, "Seriously, dude?"
Oh.
And without missing a beat, I was like, "Yeah, dude, seriously, 12:30 this afternoon, seriously." And he shut the hell up.
Oh my God. That is great. That is awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty quick on my feet. Like hecklers, I don't get heckled often, but like when I do, it's usually pretty spectacular.
Okay, now you're back in town because you said you live in Chicago, but why are you here right now? Can you explain that, please?
So this weekend is just because I'm hanging out with a friend for his birthday today.
Okay.
So we're getting lunch, but I am going to be back in town in like 4 days. Wednesday the 23rd.
I don't even know what the hell day it is.
It's the 19th, so
yeah,
it'd be the 23rd.
All right.
So Wednesday the 23rd, I will be back at Dr. Grin's for the week 4 preliminary round of the Funniest Person in Grand Rapids.
Okay, so that shows up, that on the calendar, Thursday, and then people just walk.
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, Wednesday. You just said, God dang it, what an idiot. You show up, people are there to try to win this contest.
Yes.
It's been a regular thing.
Yep, this will be my 6th year doing it, and I don't have a great track record in this contest.
Well, how does it work? You go up there and there's judges or just say, that was good, that was bad, thumbs up, thumbs down? I mean, how's it?
So how it goes is there are 8 performers, and they each get 8 minutes of time. And they get a warning, like a 2-minute bell, dinner bell essentially, to let them know they're at 6 minutes. You have 2 minutes to wrap it.
Right.
If you go past 9, Garrett's gonna walk up and clap you off the stage.
Yeah.
I've only seen Garrett do that one time.
Oh, I bet he hates that.
Yeah, he's not a fan of doing
that. Do that shit.
So then after all 8 performers go, then they have one judge pick. So 2 people move on. One pick is made by a judge in the back, and they're typically a booker by Funny Business or a headlining comic that's in a night early.
Yeah.
And then the second pick is by audience applause. So Garrett will have everybody that's not the judge's pick line up on the stage, and then he'll put his hand over their head and be like, give it up for so-and-so.
Sure.
People will make noise, people won't make noise, and then whoever gets the loudest applause. And they have like the managers stationed throughout the club, like listening. And then they, get together.
I wonder if it's ever been like really close.
It has. And
then what?
So then you basically they'll be like, all right, it was between this person and this person and this person. We'll kick everyone else off. We'll have another round of applause for those people. So that's how it works. And then if you make it past round 1 to the semifinals, then it's the same thing except 4 people.
That's all the same night, or that's another night?
Well, there's 10 preliminary rounds.
Oh my God, this is a
this
big
thing goes
deal.
Until the end of the fucking.
Holy cow! Jesus, what an investment!
It goes until April. Like
shit!
Every Wednesday.
You got to start again as soon as you get done. This damn thing's too long.
Well, every Wednesday until Laugh Fest, there's the Funniest Person in Grand Rapids going on.
Okay.
Then after Laugh Fest, they do the semifinals of the people because each 2 people per night. There's I think there's, if I'm doing math right, it should be 20 people, and they do 10. They split it up 10 and 10 for the semifinals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
4 each of the semifinals move on to the finals in April, and then they pay out like the top 3 people.
Nice. So you're appearing Wednesday at that deal.
Yes.
Didn't you say you tried to get, or you are getting one Ben Glaze to make an appearance?
Ben Glaze is signed up and confirmed.
Okay, so that is Wednesday.
Not this Wednesday. He's doing the February 27th.
Oh, okay. Date. Very good.
So
very good.
I'm happy that he decided to take the plunge and do it.
As you work, Travis, any possibility of getting you out at Back Alley? They're a key sponsor to this show.
I would love to.
Oh my God, Don Veltman, I love this man, and he bowls 300 games. And I'm telling you got to go back and listen to the interview with Don.
I heard it.
Oh, you did hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I listen when I'm at work during my day.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry about when it gets shitty and awkward with me, but
no, it's fine.
I'm working on it. But the Don interview, it was spectacular because he's dry as toast, but he's still funny somehow and interesting as hell. The dude's lived an amazing life.
Yeah, no, it was a very good interview.
Yes, we got to see you at Back Alley Comedy. I know you said that you work with the booker that works with them, Funny Business. Mm-hmm. But we gotta pack them in. I can't wait to get you out to that club.
That'd be fun. I'd enjoy it.
What am I forgetting? Is there anything that we're missing here? This is the beauty. Oh my God, Laugh Fest! Yes. Please.
Yeah, so I'm coming back. I missed Laugh Fest last year because I was on vacation, and this year I'm coming back and I'm on the Dirty Show this year.
Oh God!
So it's the 8th. They've been doing this. This is the 8th year that they've done the Dirty Show. It's the late night Dirty Show. They used to do it at Pyramid Scheme. This year it's at Dr. Grin's.
Okay.
It's on Friday, March 8th. At
Nice.
Like 11:30 at night, I want to say.
Okay.
And Adam Deggy's hosting it.
Okay. Yeah. Quality.
Let me see. Let me get the full lineup.
Yeah.
So
Do it.
I've got it right here. So Adam Deggy is hosting it. Then Matt Loria is on it.
All right. Keep him from drinking, please.
Garrett Elzinga.
Oh my God, legend.
Nardo Sosterhard.
Oh.
Robert Jenkins, who's a Lansing guy.
Okay. I'm not familiar with him.
He's really good.
Okay, good.
I really like Robert Jenkins. And then myself, and lastly, Charlie Hester. She's a comic out of the south central part of Illinois.
Nice.
I've never met her, but we connected on like Facebook, and she just seems like a very joyous person. So
Okay.
I'm
good.
I'm very
joy is good.
Yeah, so I'm very interested to see how she is on stage. I know everybody else, but I'm very excited to do this show.
I find you on Twitter at Travis Spots, correct? So at TravissSpotts.
Yes.
2 T's. At Travis Spots. Anything Instagram, Facebook I need to know about?
On Instagram, I am TSpots429.
You're like me. I don't,
Well, Travis Spots was taken on Instagram for some dumb reason. I tried doing having continuity, so that way, like, it was all the same. And
God, I so suck at it. All I do, I post to Facebook and Twitter, and then Instagram, and then I put up like a picture of like, my dog. Yeah. And then it just, I'm so bad. I need somebody to do this for me. Really.
Yeah, and then Facebook, I'm on Facebook also, just my name, so you can. I'm like one of the very few Travis Spottses, surprisingly enough, on Facebook.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, you gotta be out in front of it. Well, this has been a great time, man.
Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic. That's the beauty of the pod, man. You bring in new people. Nobody, I'll introduce them to the audience, and away you go. Everybody has a great story. The fact that you opened up and told me about the backyard wrestling thing, all the other intricacies of comedy, all your personal life stuff, that's great shit. People love that stuff. And everybody's got a story. And the fact that you're building your act and increasing your visibility, and then you're from West Michigan, so it's a really, really